So we are going to memorize hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. So the first point is that hypothalamic releasing or inhibitory hormones are synthesized into the median eminence. Special hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are synthesized into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones. Special hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are synthesized by special neurons in the hypothalamus. So hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of the anterior pituitary hormones. Which now the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormone will control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. So hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted by the median eminence. They are secreted by the special neurons in the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus, and that control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamic tissue, into the pituitary stalk. These neurons will originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their signals to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamic tissue, into the pituitary stalk, which will be the extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk. So this is our third point, that the neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus, where the neurons will originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence. Neurons will originate in various parts of the hypothalamus. They will send their signals to the median eminence. Various parts of the hypothalamus, median eminence, various parts of the hypothalamus, median eminence, various parts of the hypothalamus, median eminence, and tuber cinereum, an extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk, which will be an extension of tuber cinereum, an extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk, which is the extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk. So hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. The hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are synthesized by neurons located in the hypothalamus, which will control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus, and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, which is an extension of hypothalamic tissue, into the pituitary stalk, and it will go into the pituitary stalk. So this is our first paragraph. It says that hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence, and then are secreted into the median eminence. So hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are synthesized by special neurons synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones. Special neurons that will are synthesized by special neurons and secrete synthesized by special neurons in the hypothalamic tissue and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones, which will control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons will originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of hypothalamic tissue, into the pituitary stalk. So now we will move on to the second paragraph. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings in the central nervous system, in that their function is not to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluids. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings in the central nervous system. So the first point is that their endings are different from the endings in the central nervous system. Endings of what? The endings of these fibers different from the endings in central nervous system in that their function is not to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluids. Their function is to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluids. These fibers are different. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings of the central nervous system in that their function is not to transmit signals from one is not to transmit in that their function is not to transmit signals from one fiber part of the body from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypophyseal portal system and carried to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Now these hormones will be absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system. Will be absorbed in the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and carried to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Now their target is anterior pituitary gland, and they will be absorbed in hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. So the endings of these fibers. So now this paragraph says. First of all, the endings of these fibers are different from different from most endings of the central nervous system in that their function is not only to transmit the signals from one neuron to another, but also to secrete the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones to the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed. The next point is hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. The first point is different, and the second point is hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly into the into the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. So this is our heading that hypothalamic hypo-releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. So the neurons located in the special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize, synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of anterior pituitary gland. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their signals to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamic tissue, into the pituitary stalk. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings in the central nervous system in that their function is not to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluids. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. So this the heading is that hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons located in the neurons in the hypothalamus hypophyseal portal system secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of anterior pituitary gland. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamus, into the pituitary stalk. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings in the central nervous system in that they not only transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather but rather to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are directly carried to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary. So our first point is that special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing hormones, hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of the anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and secrete their nerve fibers to the median eminence and the tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary sac. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings in the central nervous system in that they not only transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system, absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system. So the heading is that hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of the anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons originate in various parts of the these neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and various and secrete various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum and extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk. The endings of these fibers are different from most endings of the central nervous system in that their function is not to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but rather to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers. These neurons originate in various parts of the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the the median eminence and tuber cinereum, an extension of the hypothalamus into the pituitary stalk. And the nerve fiber, the endings of these fibers are different from the endings of the other nervous from most endings in the central nervous system in that their function is not only to control the secretion of transmit signals from one neuron to another, but also to secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluids. And these hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamus and hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. So this is the paragraph. The hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones which control the secretion of anterior pituitary gland. Control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons are located in the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to various parts and send their nerve fibers to various parts and send the nerve fibers send the nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, which tuber cinereum which are tuber cinereum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tuber cinereum, which is an extension of the tuber cinereum, an extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk. An extension of hypothalamic tissue into the pituitary stalk. The endings of these fibers are different from the endings of other endings of most from most endings of the nervous from most ending in the central nervous system, in that in their function is not only to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but also to not only to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but also to in that their function is not only to transmit signals from one neuron to another, but also secrete hypothalamic hypophyseal secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones into the tissue fluid. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried directly to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. Hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones are secreted into the median eminence. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones. Special neurons in the hypothalamus synthesize and secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones, which control the secretion of anterior pituitary hormones. These neurons are located in the hypothalamus and send their nerve fibers to the median eminence and tuber cinereum, which an extension of the hypothalamus into the pituitary stalk. The endings of these neurons are different from most endings in the central nervous system, in that they not only transmit nerve fiber, in that they not only transmit nerve transmit nerve fiber function is not only transmit signals from one neuron to another, but also secrete hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones, which control the secretion of anterior pituitary and inhibit releasing hormone into the tissue fluids. These hormones are immediately absorbed into the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and are carried to the sinuses of the are carried to the sinuses of the anterior pituitary gland. So here is a table that hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control secretion of the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control the secretion of anterior pituitary glands. So the hormones are thyrotropin releasing hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, growth hormone inhibitory hormone, prolactin inhibitory hormone. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, corticotropin, 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 gonadotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, corticotropin, growth prolactin. Thyrotropin, gonadotropin, 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 corticotropin, growth prolactin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now what thyrotropin will do? Thyrotropin is a peptide of 3 amino acid Single chain of 10 amino acid, 3, 10, 41. 3, 10, 41, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 40 in dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44 to 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 44, 41, 40, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 40 in dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44, 14 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44 3, 10, 41, 44 dopamine, 3, 10, 41, 44 3, 10, 41, 44 14 dopamine. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Now thyrotropin releasing hormone secretion of TSH by thyrotropin releasing hormone thyrotropic releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by thyrotropin 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 releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by thyrotropic 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 releasing hormone thyrotropic releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by thyrotropic releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by thyrotropic releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH and by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH and by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thyroid releasing hormone single chain of 31 3 3 10 41 3 10 30 30 peptide of 3 amino acids stimulates secretion of TSH by thyroid releasing hormone single chain of 10 amino acids stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by gonadotropin. Corticotropin releasing hormone single chain of 41 amino acid stimulates secretion of ACTH by corticotropin releasing hormone single chain of 41 amino acid stimulates secretion of ACTH by corticotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of ACTH by corticotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of ACTH by corticotropin hormone stimulates secretion of ACTH by corticotropin releasing 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 hormone stimulates secretion of ACTH by thyrotropic releasing hormone stimulates secretion of TSH by gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of FSH and LH by corticotropin releasing hormone stimulates secretion of of ACTH biocritical drops. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone by somatotropes. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates secretion of growth hormone